Open quotes, "We have heard with our ears, O God, our fathers have told us, the deeds you did in their days, in days of old. You drove out the nations with your hand, but them you planted, you afflicted the peoples, and cast them out. For they did not gain possession of the land by their own sword, nor did their own arm save them, but it was your right hand, your arm, and the light of your countenance, because you favored them. You are my King, O God, command victories for Jacob. Through you we will push down our enemies, through your name we will trample those who rise up against us. For I will not trust in my bow, nor shall my sword save me. But you have saved us from our enemies, and have put to shame those who hated us. In God we boast all day long, and praise your name forever. But you have cast us off and put us to shame, and you do not go out with our armies. You make us turn back from the enemy, and those who hate us have taken spoil for themselves. You have given us up like sheep intended for food, and have scattered us among the nations. You sell your people for next to nothing, and are not enriched by selling them. You make us a reproach to our neighbors, a scorn and derision to those all around us. You make us a byword among the nations, a shaking of the head among the peoples. My dishonor is continually before me, and the shame of my face has covered me, because of the voice of him who reproaches and reviles, because of the enemy and the avenger. All this has come upon us, but we have not forgotten you, nor have we dealt falsely with your covenant. Our heart has not turned back, nor have our steps departed from your way, but you have severely broken us in the place of jackals, and covered us with the shadow of death. If we had forgotten the name of our God, or stretched out our hands to a foreign god, would not God search this out? For he knows the secrets of the heart. Yet for your sake we are killed all day long, we are accounted as sheep for the slaughter. Awake! Why do you sleep, O Lord? Arise! Do not cast us off forever. Why do you hide your face, and forget our affliction and our oppression? For our soul is bowed down to the dust, our body clings to the ground. Arise for our help, and redeem us for your mercy's sake. Close quotes. Psalm 44. When God seems far away, the experience of feeling abandoned by God is one that many believers encounter at various points in their spiritual journey. Psalm 44 poignantly captures this struggle, offering a raw and honest reflection on the distance felt between the psalmist and God during times of distress. As we delve into this psalm, we will explore its themes of remembrance, lament, identity, and the longing for divine intervention. Acknowledging the past, verses 1 to 3, the psalm opens with a powerful acknowledgement of God's past deeds. We have heard with our ears, O God, our fathers have told us, the deeds you did in their days, in days of old. Here, the psalmist emphasizes the importance of collective memory. The recounting of God's historical acts serves not only as a reminder of his faithfulness but also as a basis for the current plea for help. The phrase, "You drove out the nations with your hand," recalls moments when God intervened on behalf of his people, demonstrating his sovereignty and power. The psalmist reflects on the victory God provided, for they did not gain possession of the land by their own sword. This line highlights the theme that it is not human strength that secures victories but the favor of God alone. The psalmist concludes this section with the acknowledgement of God's grace, "Because you favored them." This favor indicates a deep, covenant relationship between God and his people. In moments when God seems distant, recalling his past faithfulness can serve as a foundation for hope. A cry for help, verses 4 to 8, transitioning from remembrance to petition, the psalmist declares, "You are my King, O God, command victories for Jacob." The urgency in this statement indicates a desire for God's active intervention in present struggles. The psalmist recognizes that victory comes not from military might but from divine assistance. Through you we will push down our enemies, through your name we will trample those who rise up against us. This cry for help reveals the internal conflict faced by the psalmist and the people of Israel. They had once experienced the tangible presence of God and now yearn for that closeness again. The declaration, "For I will not trust in my bow, nor shall my sword save me," underscores the futility of relying on human resources when facing adversity. Instead, the psalmist emphasizes that true salvation comes through God's intervention. As the psalm continues, the expression of trust in God is reiterated, "But you have saved us from our enemies, and have put to shame those who hated us." This line serves as a reminder that past deliverance fuels current hope. In times of distress, recalling previous instances of God's salvation can provide encouragement and strength. The pain of abandonment, verses 9 to 12, the tone shifts dramatically in verses 9 to 12, where the psalmist expresses feelings of abandonment, "But you have cast us off and put us to shame." This stark contrast to previous verses highlights the profound disappointment and confusion experienced by the psalmist and the community. The imagery of being turned back from the enemy signifies a feeling of defeat and vulnerability. The following line, "You make us turn back from the enemy, and those who hate us have taken spoil for themselves," reveals the painful reality that God's people now experience humiliation and loss. The psalmist pointedly expresses their sense of worthlessness. "You sell your people for next to nothing." This statement conveys the feeling of being disregarded by God, as if they are not valued in His eyes. The phrase serves as a lament for perceived abandonment, amplifying the emotional weight of the situation. The weight of shame, verses 13 to 16, as the psalm progresses, the psalmist continues to articulate feelings of shame and reproach. "You make us a reproach to our neighbors, a scorn and derision to those all around us." The community feels the sting of public humiliation as they confront their enemies. This section emphasizes how their identity as God's chosen people seems compromised by their current circumstances. The psalmist describes personal dishonor, stating, "My dishonor is continually before me." This imagery captures the psychological burden of shame, which can become overwhelming when one feels distance from God. The shame is compounded by the voice of him who reproaches and reviles, highlighting how external voices of criticism can exacerbate internal feelings of inadequacy. Faithfulness amidst distress, verses 17 to 22, despite the overwhelming sense of abandonment, the psalmist asserts, "All this has come upon us, but we have not forgotten you." This declaration demonstrates resilience and commitment to God, even in the face of hardship. The community acknowledges that their hearts have not turned away from Him, emphasizing their faithfulness to the covenant. This section articulates a profound truth about the human experience, that even in our darkest moments, we can hold fast to our faith. The statement, "Our heart has not turned back, nor have our steps departed from your way," underscores the struggle to remain steadfast amidst adversity. However, the psalmist does not shy away from expressing their pain, "But you have severely broken us in the place of jackals." This vivid imagery conveys a sense of desolation and despair. The shadow of death hangs over the psalmist, evoking feelings of hopelessness and vulnerability. The search for understanding, verses 23 to 26, the psalmist shifts to questioning God's apparent silence. "Awake! Why do you sleep, O Lord? Arise! Do not cast us off forever." These verses encapsulate the longing for God's presence and intervention. The urgency in the plea for God to awaken reflects the desperation felt by the community. The rhetorical question, "Why do you hide your face, and forget our affliction and our oppression?" reveals the struggle to reconcile the silence of God with their suffering. It is a heartfelt cry that many believers resonate with during their own times of trial. In the concluding lines of the psalm, the psalmist pointedly pleads, "Arise for our help, and redeem us for your mercy's sake." This cry encapsulates the hope that, despite the feelings of abandonment, God's mercy remains a guiding light. The appeal to God's mercy underscores the belief that His compassion can bring about restoration, even in the most desolate circumstances. Conclusion. Navigating spiritual drought. Psalm 44 serves as a profound reminder of the complexities of faith, particularly the experience of feeling distant from God. The psalmist's raw honesty offers a safe space for believers to express their own doubts and fears during seasons of spiritual drought. In times of turmoil, we can draw comfort from the knowledge that others have walked this path before us. The journey of faith is not always marked by clarity or divine presence. It often involves navigating the valleys of doubt and despair. As we reflect on Psalm 44, we are reminded of the importance of community in our faith journeys. The psalmist speaks not only for themselves but also for the collective experience of God's people. In moments of crisis, turning to Scripture, prayer, and the support of fellow believers can be vital in sustaining our faith. Ultimately, Psalm 44 invites us to wrestle with our questions while maintaining hope in God's character and faithfulness. It teaches us that even when God seems far away, we can still cry out to Him, trusting that He hears our prayers and cares for our plight. The journey of faith involves both lament and hope, and through it all, we are reminded that we are never truly alone.